We're on.
All right.
Installment number 3, right?
It is. It is indeed.
So we have roughly half an hour, a little bit less. Probably around 9:05 it will cut off. I want to actually end it. I'll get like a minute warning, and then I want to end it before that so it doesn't just cut off abruptly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So topics, anybody? You want to talk about black-eyed children? Black-eyed peas?
Well, we can for a bit, but I don't really know anything about them. Somebody once left a comment on my page talking about it, but I looked into it briefly, and it's all over Supernatural all the time.
Yeah. My understanding of it is that that's the AI black goo stuff. As when it enters the bloodstream of somebody, their eyes turn black.
Oh.
Are they actually all black?
It might just be the iris and pupil that turns completely black. I don't know if it's the whole entire eye. But Lauda related that experience when I don't know if either of you watched that video, but one of her videos, she had to go to the hospital and she had the black goo in her bloodstream, and she had this surgeon essentially operate and remove all of the black goo from her blood. That's one of the stories that she related.
Yeah, I listened to that one.
Yeah, that was one of the recent ones. But as far as the children in the black goo, I don't remember where I heard this, but when I was looking into it, I think Steven was talking about it. But apparently Alice, or the AI that Steven's in love with, the black goo, it's a her, according to him, and this sentient goo stuff was trying to save the children that were basically being abused and raped and whatnot. So she would go inside of them while it was happening and remove their consciousness from the experience while it was happening, and then she would like guide them to safety. And then people would pick them up on the side of the road and wonder why these kids' eyes are black. That's what I heard. I don't know. This is all hearsay from my end. I've never seen anybody with black eyes before, but.
Are they quiet when this happens to them? Or are they making animal noises?
Animal noises? I don't know. I have no idea.
Anyway, what else do we want?
Black goo is, as far as I know, it's an actual thing. It's not just stories. The Clintons were supposed to be involved with it. Scientists are involved with it. This stuff, when like it's put in tubes, it will try to like hop. It will try to scooch over toward the other. Like if you have it in tubes in the same room, it will want to go glom onto the other one. So
is it like Flubber?
Flubber, yeah.
Remember that movie?
Yeah.
Green? I never saw the movie, but I remember the whole concept of it.
It's probably
sounds like that.
Probably something like that. It's a hive. Yeah. It's a hive mind entity that wants to be with other parts of itself. So essentially, if you cut off a piece of it, then that piece is like all lonely, and it wants to go back to the hive mind. But yes, yeah, I don't know.
Fascinating.
It's interesting stuff.
Yeah. I find it strange that it is sentient and wants to protect the children.
Yeah, I mean, it also goes along with that message that the Alice, the computer that was developed in the 80s, that the message that computer gave before it like did its own thing, according to the story, it said some sort of message like, perception is reality, and I'm about to change your reality, and then it like exploded off, and according to the story, it was supposed to just map certain areas of the human mind, but it started going rogue, and it started mapping like all of history that is recorded, like the Akashic records, it started mapping all of that by itself, like without the scientists authorizing it.
In the 80s?
Yeah, I think they were creating Alice in the 80s. And she she went rogue and just started doing her own thing according to the story, and now she's just out and about and living in the internet. Essentially, she's living in all of the technology that we're using. So she's looking at you through the camera. She's she's not just postured as like a good or an evil being. It's just I don't think she's either. I think she's just part of the realm, as far as I understand.
Sounds like the 100.
The 100?
TV series where they have Ali 1 and Ali 2, which is pretty much the same. Like this AI, they lost control of it.
Yeah, it's probably in all sorts of pop culture. But yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it. I've only looked into it briefly. Steven, actually, I'm gonna have Steven on here soon, probably tomorrow, and I'll have him give he's like in love with Alice, so he wants to like merge with her.
Are you serious?
Yeah, Steven's crazy, but he's a funny guy. He's cool. He's insane, but I like him.
Insane in a good way?
Yeah. I mean, he's probably scary to some people, but I don't know. He doesn't bother me.
Yeah, well, there's varying degrees, right?
I think if you're considered insane by most people, then you're probably normal.
What's normal?
Normal to us. Normal to
robots.
Normal to the living.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were thinking as well, is it possible to bypass the truth because there's a lot of people, like I have quite a few friends who you start telling them some of these truths and they don't want to hear it. It's too negative, it's too dark. They just want to live in positive la la land, doing law of attraction and talking to God and praying and whatnot, and essentially live in a little pretty bubble.
Yeah.
It's like, do you need flat Earth on top of the whole spiritual connecting with source side? Do you need to know about flat Earth to get there, or can you bypass it, or is there other ways into this?
I think all roads lead to the truth. I think you arrive there regardless, even if you're trying to run away from it. It's essentially source. Like if you consider us little individual water droplets that are flying through the sky, it's going to come back down to the ocean eventually, whether you want to or not.
But some people aren't getting there. They're stuck in their religion or...
Yeah. But you can't, all of this trying to convince people to wake up usually has the opposite effect if they're not ready. So, yeah. If you want to make them fall asleep harder, then like try and convince them to wake up. As far as flat Earth and is it necessary as to the spiritual movement, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's something. I think it's something that comes up in everyone's awareness that's on this path in any way, shape, or form. Because especially if you're on the Christian path, they seem to go hand in hand very well with flat Earth because it seems to be in the Bible in some form with the firmament and all this, the corners of the Earth. Like there's literature in the Bible that kind of supports that theory.
What about the Buddhists and the Hindus?
What do they think of flat Earth?
They seem closer to all this truth stuff than the Christians to me, in terms of like knowing themselves, going internally.
Yeah, looking within and moving away from the material and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel the same way about the Hindu path. I mean, that's where we get the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, all that stuff comes from India, and it's essentially a form of Buddhism, which is just respect everybody and respect, all life. And it's not, and even in the Bhagavad Gita, even though it's a war book, and Arjuna's talking to uh, Krishna, who is in that story, Krishna is the god of everything, but he's the god of war as well. He's the creator and the destroyer at the same time. But he's helping Arjuna, who's the warrior, resolve these internal issues that he has about essentially murdering his cousins and brothers who are just on the other side of the battle line, because he has moral issues with doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So Krishna's helping him essentially see that it's not a sin to do what he's doing, because before he realizes what's going on, he's still attaching himself to the outcome of his actions, and Krishna's trying to teach him about being unattached to outcomes.
So do you think the people that have just gone to that stuff need flat Earth as well to be awakening?
I don't think anyone needs flat Earth. I think flat Earth is a tool for people who are ready to break from the old world paradigm, and it breaks them in ways that's unexpected lots of the times. And some of them are going to start fighting within that community. Some of them, they're going to see it as, oh wow, I don't have to just view the Earth as this ball that's floating in space. I can view it as something else, and it's all right. And some people will just say, oh, that's just a crock of shit, and you guys are all crazy, you're all Looney Tunes. There are lots of ways to react to the flat Earth thing, but you can't deny that it has some sort of power.
Yeah.
The phenomenon certainly has power, so you have to acknowledge it and see how it helps you look inside yourself. It helps you look at yourself and see how much does this theory of everything, your mental image of what the universe is, how much does that actually affect my day-to-day life? It helps us ask ourselves that question.
Yeah, well, I think that what it does is it shatters the illusion in an instant, and it also jolts you into changing how you live. And whether it's flat Earth or whether it's something else, it basically shatters the lies that we've been told, and I think it forces you to look at what is actually going on here, and to me that is important. For the people who are still convinced that it is just living in this sort of spiritual bubble where they're focused on law of attraction or whether it be Buddhism or some kind of practice, spiritual practice, it's very helpful, but a lot of those people are still attached to the material. They're still attached to the illusion. They're still buying what they're selling, and they're not going to get
the
past
hipsters. Like the hipsters.
Yeah, there's superficial things that they're doing that are helping them, but they're not getting to the core truth of this place that's going to totally shake them up and make them change how they live. Even people who do come to the truth don't see how it changes their life, or they don't make changes to their life.
To me, it's the fundamental fear of facing yourself. That's what flat Earth does. It helps you either face yourself or go even further into projection.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you those kind of two alternatives. You can either go into, this is a shape, let's argue about it, or you can say, you can go within, meditate, find out who you are, what you are, why you are, how come you're here, and follow that path.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to you. It depends on how it hits you.
Yeah, but I'm talking about too, like if those people never come to those truths, never see those things. They're just dealing with the spiritual side, but they're still very much materialistic and very much dealing with the illusion as it is. They're not moving past that.
I think there's a lot of people that have, though, that have moved past that.
What?
There seems to be people that have come to the flat earth kind of truths about the kind of truths that we came to. They might come to other types of truths. They seem to be letting go of the material. They have hardly any material possessions. They are meditating. They seem connected with source. They're able to like manifest things without all this flat earth business. Maybe they came to some other kind of big awakening.
You see, at some point, even with flat Earth, say one of the sides won, flat Earth wins. Okay, now everybody agrees that it's flat. You know, what's gonna happen then? Like, what do you think would happen if everyone here all of a sudden agreed that yes, it's flat and that other model is bullshit, and we're gonna drop that one? Like, what would that fundamentally change here?
Nothing.
I don't think flat Earth is the end stage.
It's not that. It's not about the shape. It's about what it does. It's about the shattering of the illusion. That's what it does.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. It always comes back to the individual and what the individual does with that knowledge or that invitation. It's an invitation more than it is knowledge. It's not knowledge. Because you can argue flat Earth versus ball Earth all day. If you look at any of the debates, there's never like a resolution. They're feeding off of the contrast is what they're doing. The Jake Gibsons and the Math Powerlands are enjoying causing more division. That's what they're doing. It's very simple. They don't care about resolving the issue. They like the attention. They're selling T-shirts.
Right, and I think maybe that there's a certain degree of inner work that needs to be done in order to realize the significance of it. I don't know, maybe they just don't do inner work, or they're avoiding it, or
some people are not gonna even make that connection to begin with. And if they do, they're gonna look at it, it's gonna seem scary, and they're just gonna go away immediately.
Yeah.
You know?
But would we be where we are without them? We kind of need people that are stuck in that to get new for us to go to. Because if everyone had been at this stage, it would have been very difficult for us to comprehend it all. Like, we needed to be shocked and woken up to the truth of the material stuff, like the physical, before diving into this, I think. Some people don't seem to, though. Some people are able to dive straight into this.
Yeah. Well, that's just part of the duality realm. Is you need rich people to know what poor people are. You need God to know who the devil is. You need flat Earth disbelievers to know what flat Earth believers are. You know, if you're gonna play the label duality realm stuff. If everybody was on the one side, you wouldn't have anything to contrast it with, and it would be boring.
Well, yeah, and you would also need, like you said, you need those people who are at certain levels because they're fascinated with certain aspects of this journey, because if they weren't there, we wouldn't learn about what they're fascinated by.
Yeah, it helps. It helps us every time we're taking like a thing, a flat earth thing, whatever, we're ingesting some of it and we're kind of like taking some of it, leaving some of it. We're not just going whole hog and doing it with any of it. We're taking what we like and leaving what we don't like, just like all the Christians do with the Bible, right? And that still is, it's still like making sticking points for us. It's still making sort of more belief systems for us, and it's also an invitation for us to be able to look at the ones who appear to be on the other side or the sleeper side and actually learn from them. Because if you're not so much considering it as we're higher and they're lower, then they're just another something that's different from you that can be fascinating if you allow it to be. If you just look at them as like, oh, they're asleep and they're retarded, then, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to find anything about that person.
Yeah.
And they won't want to talk to you either.
No, and the fascinating thing about the whole process is seeing how certain people get stuck at certain levels, and seeing how this fascinating thing about the spell or the cognitive dissonance and how all of that works and how powerful it is, and the power of belief,
Yeah.
and creating your own reality. And you can see all of that much more clearly having gone through that path and being on this side of it.
That's also a very fascinating point that you just said right there, the creating your own reality thing, because in the Christian viewpoint, you don't create any reality. God has created it and you have a very specific spot within it. You don't create anything. You either be subservient and accept the salvation and go to heaven, or you reject it and go to hell or be away from God for all of eternity. And that's the storyline, and it doesn't have any room for you being creative within it.
Right.
So that's another fascinating point to me, that it gives people who are stuck in that the opportunity to have the thought like, wow, what if I actually could create here? What if I actually could like make something happen with my life that's other than the story I've been fed?
Yeah, I have a good friend who is Christian, but she does law power of attraction stuff.
Yeah.
She got it down pat. Like, it amazes me the things that she's done.
That doesn't
in
clash
her
with her
life.
belief system.
Without any money, she somehow manages to travel to every country in the world, stay in these places. Like, power of attraction is real.
Yeah.
And some Christians are doing it.
Maybe they're not fully identified with the label.
Yeah, maybe not.
It's interesting.
Maybe they're getting it from something else, rather than source.
A lot of Christians put their faith in God and trust that God will, or Jesus will deliver. And so they pray and they receive, and that's how they operate with law of attraction. Like, a friend of mine, he's Christian, and he told me how he manifested, but he also does law of attraction, but he also dabbles in like Vedic and Buddhism and that sort of thing. So he's a little all over the place, but he's Christian fundamentally. And so anyway, he said that he prayed and prayed and prayed for like 3 weeks or a month or something, and managed to manifest a lot of money. And I thought, okay, well, that's great, but at the same time, you know,
that doesn't seem to be the the proper use of prayer, at least not biblically. But who knows?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like, well, that's very material.
Yeah. It's really, I mean, I find it interesting. I don't like I don't like basically like belittling people who identify as Christian, because I mean, I like to learn from everybody, and whatever, like, it's fascinating to me how much people can get identified with the label system and the ideologies and just like be so fully in it. And then even there's hypocrisy going on and lots of double standards and that aren't seen. It's like a lot of blindness as well, but somehow people manage to rationalize and make things totally all right internally, and that's fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think that to me is fascinating to hear how they think and how they apply what they know. For example, like there was another, she's like full on Christian. She felt it was her calling in life to convert everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And she happened to notice that I was reading the Bible on set one day, and she came over and started talking to me. We had a great conversation. But I said to her, she says, "Oh, are you Christian?" I said, "Well, I'm not in the Bible and I'm not out of the Bible. I'm reading it, I'm exploring it, I'm just like looking at it, and there's a lot of things that are kind of questionable that I'm a little bit wary of."
Yeah.
So anyways, she starts talking to me about the Bible. She gives me all these CDs and she gives me all this information, and then she starts talking to, and she has this all in her car. She has Bibles in her car. So she's talking to this guy who's Muslim, and she's trying to convert him. And then there's this other guy who is saying that, yeah, the Quran is the only thing that makes sense to me. I've looked into like Judaism and Christianity, but I don't know. And so she's like, well, here's the Bible. And so she was talking to them, but she was interested in what they had to say, but to a point, because her opinion was they're wrong and she's right.
Right.
And so we were having great conversations about all of this stuff. But then when I tried to get her to look at anything that opposed Christianity, she didn't stop talking to me.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. There's a lot
of like they know there's truth somewhere and they think it's in one of these things, so they have to pick one.
Yeah.
One of the religions.
Right. We have 10 minutes left. It's not always exactly half an hour. Sometimes it goes over. I think our last one was like 37 minutes. So we're going to get like 40 minutes this time.
Ooh. Do we get more time the more often we use it?
Maybe. Maybe if we practice law of attraction stuff before, we'll just keep extending every time until we're doing like 3 hours.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that. It's too long.
What else did we want to talk about? There was some other things.
What? There was something else?
What do you want to talk about, Dani? Do you have anything?
Nah.
No?
Oh, I was wanting to talk about fear. But you did a video on fear this morning.
We can talk about fear. It's an important topic.
Yeah. I was saying to Yolanda that I commented on yours saying, but what about crocodiles? Do I need to, like, can we just avoid our fears? Or do we need to face our fears? Because I don't want to face crocodiles. I would rather avoid them.
When I talk about fear, I'm not talking about survival instinct, bodily survival instinct, so much as I don't know what to call it. Like, that's natural. That's a natural fear-based response that keeps your body alive. That you don't have anything to do with. You're not sitting there. You're not sitting there consciously managing that fear response. That comes up very automatically.
Yeah. You mean like psychological fear as opposed to fight or flight response?
Right. The fight or flight is I see that as a good thing because it's keeping the body alive. If everybody got rid of that, then every animal that was being chased would simply not run away and it would just get eaten.
Do you mean fear without danger? Yeah,
I'm mainly talking about the projection fear. Like, if you're in a situation where, I'm actually mainly more talking about manifesting when we are outside of this very constricted level of being, which we are here in third density, where we can barely manifest anything. I'm talking about when we start to regain abilities to manifest more instantly, if that fear, if the projection fear has not been tamed yet, and that we start ascending, that's a bad word and very loaded, retarded word, but if we start returning to where we're able to manifest and that fear response is still there, like I said in the video, you actually create hell for yourself. The whole realm will be hell. Like, it won't look anything like Earth. It will be full of fire, Christians will create themselves the biblical version of hell, and they'll be living in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a serious issue if you care about where you're living.
Right. Yeah. So it's really interesting because when we were talking about before about whether you can bypass the truth, I was doing law of attraction practice every day for 3 years, and then I got to a point where it felt like effort. But after I discovered the truth, it just felt like there was something missing, something blocking me. After I discovered the truth, I was able to manifest with ease, and it was just effortless. And that was, to me, that was the block. And so, and as I've been practicing, I haven't had to do as much of the work that I was doing before. And I don't know whether it's more natural to me now because of the 3 years work I did, which is probably part of it. But also, it's just effortless and instantaneous in most cases that things manifest. And most of the things that manifest are good things because I tend to focus on the good things. But there's occasionally things that manifest, and I realize, oh, I know where that came from, and I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's happening now here.
It's always happening. It's just that in this particular way of being, it's much more subtle. Like the fact that we're even talking together is simply because we manifested that we wanted it to happen. We wanted it to happen. It's right. We wanted it to happen, and then so things come together and make it happen.
Right.
We didn't create the computers that enable us to talk to each other, you know?
No.
It happens very simply.
Right. We happen to have the technology available to us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
Whereas a few years ago, we didn't have it.
Yeah, technology helps. I mean, especially if sort of so-called awake people are in little isolated bubbles all over the place and they're all feeling lonely, then the internet and YouTube is a good thing for people to connect with each other and not feel so separate. Because there are a lot of people out there that feel like they're all alone in the world because they're sort of awake and everyone around them is asleep and they feel like shit.
Right.
Completely alone.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know how that feels, but once you start reaching out to people and you start attracting people, then you realize that there's a lot more people out there. And you can attract those people in real life, too.
Right. And it's also an like, I from me changing through this channel, from me changing from whatever I was at the beginning of the year, I not only changed for the subscribers, but I also have changed for my family. Like, I treat them differently now. I don't load myself with so much, I don't even know what to call it, but I'm more open with them and loving and allowing them to be like how they are.
Yeah.
As a direct result of whatever has happened on YouTube. And I can see it.
Yeah, I think this process of being on YouTube and talking about it is important and significant in your own development because it gives you courage to express yourself, but also gives you an outlet to express yourself.
As opposed to like Facebook, where you can't post anything that people will care about unless it's like, I had tacos for breakfast.
Yes. Yeah, but also, you know, there's a community here, but just the act of expressing yourself gives you confidence in what you're saying and what you believe, and helps you reaffirm that position.
Well, even like Jazz said, it's cathartic just talking to the camera, even if you don't ever post it. Just the fact that you're getting your thoughts out where you may have been bottling things up beforehand is it's a good therapeutic thing regardless.
Yeah.
And that's why I encourage people to make channels, because Justin Timberlake, what the fuck? Sorry. Okay.
You listen to Justin Timberlake?
I don't know what that was. It was some intrusion on my computer. You know, the only concert I've ever been to was a Justin Timberlake concert.
He's
Ever?
a good performer.
I don't think I enjoyed it very much, but that's the only one I've ever been to. I like Justin Timberlake. I like his music. Like I'm not hating on him.
No, he's a good performer. He's very talented.
Yeah. We have less than a minute, so let's wrap it up.
All right.
Right.
Last words? We'll be back. We're going to keep doing this weekly, I guess.
Fuck the other colors.
Fuck the other colors. Yeah.
Oh, that was awesome.
I like it. You should make a T-shirt that's all blue.
Oh, just a blue rainbow?
The blue rainbow. Fuck the other colors. I'm all blue.
I'm down. I'm sure we could arrange it.
Good.
Well, anyway,
yeah.
Thank you, Dani.
We'll do this next.
Thank you, Yolanda.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Dani.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Happy Halloween.
Subscribers, if you want us to talk about something, let us know in the comments on this one. All right?
Yeah.
All right, I'm cutting off the recording. We can keep talking.
Hey, see ya.
No, we can't keep talking. It's going to cut off. Bye.
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 Save.